And this is your model of your model leg?
This is the model of the model. This over here is the rest of the world and is a fully automated sector plate.
Okay.
And it's behind the scenery over there. Over here we've got a line which disappears through a tunnel, or will do, disappear through a tunnel, runs right around the back into that sector plate over there.
Crafty.
And then the line at the front here, which is the line that goes to Ilfracombe, runs across the front, across the viaduct, and then down the side. Eventually, where I'm standing, there will be the model of the mines of Gupworthy, which was an amalgamation of mines on top of the Blackdown Hills. But with a Porter Scout motor, and that's difficult because I've got to make a load of sensors to park it.
Ah, right.
Right, so I'm now going to use a stepper motor so I can use the storage notation. And I communicate to it with MegaPoints.
Woohoo, brilliant. So this is the rest of the world?
This is the rest of the world. First thing I'm going to do is set the road. So I've got to bring the loco out of front siding, which is 9. See it change there to give me a right road, and I also want access to 12 and 15. That allows me now, all green, to bring the logo up to here, and then we'll back it down to here to pick up those wagons. So, first thing we'll do is start the logo up.
This trackwork is just stunning.
Should have. Gates are open. Points buried in the level crossing will now change, which is 15. each of those gates movements are fully programmable. There's a chair here. Let's see if I can find anything.
Dave, isn't that tree beautiful?
You love trees?
Yeah, I love them. Love them. I love that.
I have to be totally honest and say my trees. A very good friend of mine called Tony Donaldson,
Oh, it's gorgeous.
who's also bought one of your MegaPoints systems.
I know it is.
I'm going up to install it for him because he came down and he said, I got this and I got this and it's got to be joined
His
outside.
wife Sue. His wife Sue.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't think he, once you've met him, I don't think you forget.
No, you forget, don't forget Tony Memory.
So I saw the gates working. You've got servos controlling the gates.
Yes, gates, four servos of the digital ones are mounted just underneath. I can open the gate in a minute and show
Okay.
you. There's 4 servos underneath there. Each one is individual and individually programmed so that you can have them so that they interlace or do what you want to do with them. And in fact that particular one is a direct copy of the movement of the gates at Topsom, because I happen to have a cine film of me riding on the gate at the age 5, which my mother took, and you can actually see the gates change their position, because what used to happen was the weight of the gate, once one of them was moving, was transferred to the next one to make it move, and so on, which is the signalman's effort on the wheel.
All right.
Anyway,
I
all
know
of that.
with that programming then, I noticed you've got an Arduino down here.
Yep, this is an Arduino down here, and that Arduino drives just the 4 gates at the moment. It will do something else later on, but for the moment it's just a simple Arduino, simple piece of software there, drives 4 servos, and I can control the dwell time, the speed, and the advance of all of them in turn. Now this piece here is a 7-volt Arduino supply, and I've used these quite extensively around the layout because I pump 12 volts all the way around the layout on these buses down here. That 12 volts is turned into either 7 volts, 5 volts, 18 volts for uncouplers, whatever I want. And these little devices are 99p and they're called DC to DC boosters, and you can buy them off the net, so you can set them up to whatever you want. Moving along, I'll come back to these in a
How do you
moment.
control that Arduino and the gates then?
That gate is literally taken off of point 15 here, and I just throw the lever on the control panel. Throwing the lever sends a 1, just a simple 1, through your MegaPoint, this is an early one incidentally, through your MegaPoint controller, which drives the Arduino.
So a bit of custom logic, and you've integrated it onto your network.
Straight onto the network.
Okay.
Okay. Now I could have taken it directly into there, but it was just as easy, in fact far easier, to take it straight out of your MegaPoint controller. And that particular one is set to the DC condition, so that it's either on or it's off.
Right.
And it's just a 5-volt level.
Okay.
If we move along over here, we've got another one, which is an early one. These are just controlling all the points for the various aspects of the routes that you want on the layout. And we saw those moving. I'm in the process at the moment of renewing these tie bars because I've had a little bit of trouble with them on another layout, which is run with microlinks and stuff. And that has caused me to revamp the design slightly. I've had no trouble on my own, and I've actually done a million movements with them, but still. Now I use a bigger server than you use. The reason being is historical. When I started building the layout 5 years ago, you weren't doing them. But secondly, I find by using the HS311, I can actually stack the micro switches which do the polarity. Right. Literally, I glue them on with Araldite. They're glued onto there, and they're operated by the same pinion that does that. Now here I've got one of your new feedback modules, and these feedback modules are connected in turn to the track feeds. At every single track feed that I've got on the layout, I've got a track detector on. Now when I've got the locomotive running around, I can actually see, because as you can appreciate, the layout is 40 feet by 23 feet. You can't see exactly where a locomotive is from the distance back from the control panel, but the mimic diagram will tell you exactly and precisely where it is.
Right.
These are the ones which actually provide the feedback to the track, and these on the side are the ones which are immediately underneath of here, and as you can see, this wire here comes straight down from the marker switch. That tells me which position the point is in. So regardless of what I think the point is in, this one will tell me what the point is in.
So it's actually measuring the position.
It's actually measuring the position and feeding that information back. And then when it's all finished, I've finished setting it all up, it all folds up flat into the fascia. And the fascia, all the way around, all the straight pieces hinged out. And they've all got various bits and pieces in. Sheila, if you pull the brown lever, which is lever 15 I think it is, then you'll see the servos actually moving. And there's little magnetic clutches
Right.
underneath, so that if somebody comes and does that,
It doesn't
it's not
break.
screwed up. But you need to get... That's it. It's going back now, it should be. Yep.
That sound.
I've been around there since I built it. No, I suspect it's not live. No, that's running on supercap as far as that. It's the P4 shag lever, and it stands for the Sheffield Area Groups lever. I think it was designed many, many years ago. It's by far the best one that I've ever come across. Unfortunately, to open it up, I do have to move all of the levers to that position. However, I'll talk you through it very quickly. This is my mimic diagram, and in a moment we'll run the train through and you'll see some of the mimic on here coming up as a blue light as it moves along. It's fibre optically driven, and I've used fibre optics because I wanted to make it very small, and I didn't want to have to solder in hundreds of very tiny LEDs into place. So I used, as I say, fibre optics for that bit. Fibre optics can be expensive, but this isn't expensive, because what you do is you drill a 1mm hole 3mm deep in the top of the blue LEDs, and you just poke up the 1mm fibre optic tube into it. I tried using 0.75, but it's too brittle, and I don't know why. Perhaps the formula's different, but it's too brittle. I've got two Master 511 controllers here. This is the Master, this is the Slave, and I can control 16 locomotives on each if I want to. I'm too old to cope with more than 3, I find, so it's probably superfluous. This monitor's my 5V supply, which comes from a power unit inside, and this monitor's my 12V supply. They're independently switch offable because I find it better to turn the 5V on, allow the MegaPoints to stabilise, which takes 2 or 3 seconds, then turn on the 12V supplies, and then finally I've got my track supply there at the end. So I'm going to open it, I'm going to turn all of those off, and now I'll show you that opening it up inside. Now all of these units are mostly the early MegaPoint components, and the first thing you see is the MegaPoint main controller there. You'll also notice there's very few wires on it, and that's for a particular reason. I've decided to keep that one at the far end there because it had to be offset by one anyway, to keep it as a spare. At the far end I've got my DC-DC interface, which I've not wired in yet, but I have tried it out and found it seemed to work okay. Here are all of the switch inputs from all of the levers, also from my uncouplers, which is what I've got here, and I uncouple by zone using Alex Jackson couplings. Those particular items also go into the relevant receiver there. And this is the one which actually produces the master LED offset. Now if I come up here, these are magnetically held, and I open it up. What I've got here is my control panel, which is made up from a piece of sign writer's board, which you can get. It's plastic coated on both sides. I drew the diagram, in fact the same diagram as this, up on Word, and then put all the LEDs into place in 2.9mm holes, which were forced, and forced the LED into. And then all the LED drivers and the complement to the drivers all drive the LEDs in question as to where they stand at the moment. It looks complicated, but it's incredibly repetitive, incredibly. And the easy thing is you fit the two LEDs and you plug it in. You fit the two LEDs and you plug it in.
And how long have these been fitted now?
These have been fitted and installed January 2016.
That's 18
months,
months, right.
at least, and they've been working perfectly. The only failures I've had have not been with the boards at all, but where I kept these wires just a little bit tight in some cases and they pulled off. Because these are all solder connections rather than using the normal red, white and blue ones, because I needed to get it into quite a confined space up here. Now I understand on the new one this would be a lot simpler, because all of these resistors that you see, hundreds and hundreds of them, are all incorporated into the device.
They're all built in and they're all plug and play now as well.
So there's no problems at all. It's the usual story.
Evolution, isn't it?
Evolution, absolutely. And the quality, I've never had a single failure, ever. And the whole lot is driven from this supply here, which provided me with 20 amps at 5 volts and 20 amps at 12 volts. Which was ideal, and no problems whatsoever until I installed the track detectors. And when I installed the track detectors, my 12 volts dropped to nominally 10.5.
Right.
Which caused me a bit of an issue.
Right.
So I bought one of these DC boosters, a bit like the other ones we were looking on the other side. That happens to be a 8 amp one, and I just put the 12 volts into that and take 14 volts out.
And do you operate your points solely by lever now? Everything's done through lever? Right.
Every single. The whole of the layout can be operated from here.
Right.
So it's all automatic, no problems whatsoever. But I do have a couple of friends who come round occasionally, and I'm building, the whole layout's designed to be operated as it was a real railway. And over at the station throat, there will be a small control panel, and I can allocate control to that control panel by flicking the switch. All the servos moving back into position. See, I've done this before. Right, so the route. So we've got 1, and now we want 11. That'll take us through to there without any trouble. Now we can run the train. You'll see it come along here. When it comes off the sector, it will come on and it'll go up and along there. It only starts as we reach that point there. I'm literally working my way around the whole layout, installing all these things.
So here we are at the main control panel, and we've got Station Master Sheila, who's now going to run us through the control panel operation. So, go.